Hello, guys. Welcome back to Warrior Wisdom, the series where we interview faculty across campus, hoping to learn from their experience and see if they have any wisdom to share. Today, I'm here with Dr. Clint Pleasant. Thank you for being here, Coach. Coach, I call him Coach P, but
Thank you for
Dr.
having me,
Yeah,
Cyrus. I appreciate it. And thanks
yeah,
for all you've done for the university and uh, great leadership you've provided. And I appreciate you having me on the segment.
of course, yeah. Could you briefly introduce yourself and what brought you here to RCU?
Sure. I'm actually coming to the end of a 21-year stint career here,
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on campus. I go all the way back to kind of the early days. My grandfather was here in the late '50s when the school opened, and then my dad came to work here or came to school here in the '60s, and then stayed here and started to work here. And so, my family's been associated with the school since it opened in 1959.
Wow, yeah.
And then I came, never thought I'd work here. I worked at 4 or 5 different universities. And then in 2005, my wife and I decided we wanted to move back closer to family. So the president at the time offered me a job and came here in 2005 and have just completed almost 21 years.
Yeah. Wow, that's quite the legacy, and I know the names on the arena, so
Yes.
the
Yeah.
Pleasants have made a big impact here. Yeah.
Yeah.
The first question I wanted to ask is, what's a moment in your life that didn't go as planned, and what did it end up teaching you?
Wow. That's a great question. Right. Right on the spot.
Yeah, right on the
Well, I can
bat.
think of a few.
Okay.
I can think
Yeah.
of a few. I'm 51 years old, and so what that means is if you live a while, then you're going to have a little trauma and pain along the way, right? And so I can think of a few. But in 2005, when we came back here, my wife got really sick, and it caused all sorts of pain for the family, mostly her. But with her illness, it really kind of redefined what our family was going to look like and how we were going to function, because we didn't know what she was going to be capable of as she started to get better. She had a brain tumor, and when they removed the brain tumor, it caused some disabilities. So she's got a lot of visual disability, and she lost her full privileges to drive, and just I became Cyrus sort of a caretaker, if you would.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, she was at home without half her skull because it sat on ice as her brain healed, and she had a hockey helmet she had to wear, and she came home with an IV. So I became a nurse pretty quick.
Yeah.
And with that, we never plan that. When you meet somebody and you fall in love and you get married, you don't plan. When you say in sickness and in health, when you get married, you say it, but you don't really think it's going to happen to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it happened to us, and so that would be one example I'd give you. And again, I could give you several, but that's one. And so the second part of your question is, I think, how did I handle it, or what did I learn from
Yeah.
that? Well, this answer could go on and on probably for the next hour. So we learned all sorts of things. We learned what we really were all about. We learned if our faith was going to actually move from theory to
Mm-hmm.
practice. Up until then, I think my faith was just theory, and then I had to figure out if my faith was going to be real. Was I actually going to be the kind of person that I said I was going to be?
Yeah.
And so what I did in that process is I learned a lot about myself. And usually when things are going well, and you know this because you and I have spent time on the basketball court.
Yeah.
Usually when things are going well, you don't tend to learn a whole lot because
Mm-hmm.
you're winning. But when life gets hard, or when something difficult happens, or when you lose, now you have to self-reflect. Now you've
Yeah.
got to reflect and go, okay, how am I going to deal with this? Oh, here are some character flaws that I have that maybe I wouldn't have known unless this bad thing happened to me. So one of the things that I like to tell people when they ask me questions like this is that even though it's been a very, very difficult and traumatic and painful thing that happened to us, we have learned so much about ourselves. And I think what we learned has actually, I hope, has made us better people, better humans. You've kind of had a front row seat to some of that because I've shared it with the basketball team, and I've said, "Hey guys, here are some things that when you have me as a coach, here's some things that come with that."
Yeah.
And I think it's caused me just to be brutally honest, to be willing to connect over things. You've seen me be emotional, you've seen me cry,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that painful thing has actually turned out to, in some ways, be a blessing. And I think that's possible.
Yeah. I think that's really key. The aspect of losing has so much more value than winning, and it's usually through those, like how character is really tested. And
Yeah.
I like how those such a traumatic experience, you came out of it better.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. And again, we want to win. We want life to go well.
Yeah.
We want to win if we're competing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah.
we do tend to self-reflect and to learn some of the key lessons after navigating trauma or after losing, if you would, if you'll allow it to be a teacher. And so I think these things can be great teachers if we will allow it.
Yeah, that's great. The next question I want to ask is, what's something you worried about deeply when you were younger that you now see differently?
Wow. So you're asking great questions.
Yeah.
What's something I worried about when I was younger? The thing that's coming to the top of my mind is this. I think when I was younger, I was one of those people that always wanted everything to be planned out and to go the exact way I planned it. Okay. And so even from a young age, I was a planner. You know, I always have liked looking at a calendar or looking at a daily planner. When all the Franklin Covey stuff came out, you don't even know what that is, but you know, that where people could kind of use different tools to help themselves stay organized. And I was into all that, very much into all that. And I was one of those people that even at a young age, I felt like I had a 3-year plan, I had a 5-year plan, I had a 10-year plan. I used to even, Cyrus, write these goals down on my mirror. So when I would see the mirror in the morning, like when I was brushing my teeth or shaving, I would always be reminded of, here's the plan. You know what I mean? And so I would think about and probably even fixate on the plan and where I was headed, and very much wanted to control that. Well, I found out that things don't always go as you plan. And so now that I'm older, I don't get quite as hung up on wanting to have the illusion that I can control the next move. I know now that there are a lot of things outside of my control. I know now that if this is my plan, somebody else has free will that maybe could do something to block that plan. And so I feel like I've gotten a little better in understanding that. And so I don't get so caught up in fixating on what the plan is, where I'm headed, what I'm going to ultimately be doing. I feel like I'm a little less certain, but in a good way. Like, you know, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I know I can't control things. I can't control people. I can't control the weather. And so I've probably lowered my expectations a little bit. And it probably seems like a negative comment, but I actually mean that positively. I lower my expectations so I give room to know that I really can't control this outcome, and whatever happens, I'm going to be okay.
I like that. So you talk about letting go of things outside of your control. What other things people can control?
There are a few. I guess I want to argue there are not many. But, you know, obviously you can control your attitude. You can control your personal outlook. You can control your own ability to be self-aware, to self-reflect. Those are things you can control. You can control how you treat other people. You can't control how people treat you, but you can control how you treat other people. And you can control how you're going to react to any situation that comes your way. So I just named a few. Again, there are hundreds of things, thousands of things in the environment that we cannot control. We referenced that a minute ago at the top of the question.
Yeah.
These are some things we can control. I think we can control our own attitude, our own work ethic, our own perspective that we might hold, and then the way we treat people. And so if those are the only things that we can control, then it seems to me that we ought to pay a lot of attention to controlling those things well at a high level. And then being a little more gracious toward ourselves with the things that we want to happen, but we can't control. You know, I think you can try to do it, but you're probably going to be a lot happier in life if you just accept the fact that there are things outside of your control and you just work on the things that you can't control.
Yeah. It's sort of setting yourself up for failure if you put these high expectations. I mean, it's good to have direction and ambition, but if you're totally attached to the outcome, then if it doesn't go your way, it's kind of...
I think that's a great phrase. I think a lot of times we use the language of attachment or detachment, and being able to be detached from certain situations is actually a really healthy thing. So it doesn't just consume you in a negative way.
Yeah. So it's just kind of bridging from the question, but if you could sit down face to face with your younger self, what would you want them to understand?
Wow. I actually did this exercise
Yeah.
last weekend. I was at a workshop and the speaker asked us to close our eyes and visualize our younger self. And for me, that young boy was I want to say around kindergarten, because the young boy that appeared in my mind that was me, had a backpack on,
Yeah.
a Superman backpack on. And so I'm assuming I was around kindergarten age. And I was encouraged to have a conversation, like you're asking me to do now.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I said was what we've already referenced. There are going to be some things that happen as you grow older, and some of those things are going to be very hard. And don't let those things necessarily get you off track or send you to a dark place. Allow those things to actually shape you and refine you into the most useful version of yourself. And so it was a powerful exercise, because when I closed my eyes, I actually had the conversation with this younger version of me. And I also told him to make sure that he does not find or create any identity in himself outside of his self-worth as a child of God. In other words, I said, don't have your identity wrapped up in being liked. Don't have your identity wrapped up in being popular. Don't have your identity wrapped up in winning championships. Don't have your identity solely wrapped up in winning games. Don't do that. There's nothing wrong with those things, but don't have your identity there. Make sure your identity is rooted that you are someone that's infinitely loved by God, period. And I said that to my younger version.
Yeah. I also did a similar exercise like that a while back. Was it kind of emotional?
Oh, absolutely. I'm trying not to cry right now.
Yeah.
I was teared up in that exercise, but the lights were off. They were playing soft music, and we were all kind of moved around and had our own private space. And actually, it was much more emotional than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And then we were asked to hug, this younger version of ourselves. And some people might think, oh, that's pretty esoteric. That's pretty out there. But I actually enjoyed the exercise.
Yeah.
And the other thing I did, which was fascinating, and you didn't ask me this, but I'm just going to offer it to you, is I had a piece of paper, a blank piece of paper, and I was asked to draw, not write, but draw the scene in my life where I first felt trauma, where I first felt pain, where I first felt scared. And I was, again, not write, I was asked to draw the scene. And there's no right or wrong answer to this. And then we were encouraged to find someone next to us and explain our drawing. And that was pretty powerful exercise.
Yeah. I think that sort of inner work is so important, and sometimes maybe people overlook that. But so much of our character today is shaped by those first 7 years that is very formulative, and we never pay attention to that inner
Absolutely.
child that's still longing.
Absolutely. Some people call it family of origin work, and I am glad that mental health and wellness is now more mainstream, so we can talk about it. But a lot of times people like you and I who are involved in athletics, people I think just make the assumption, we're not in touch with that side of ourselves, and we're just dumb jocks, and that's just not always true. Those are unfair characterizations, right? So I think people that are willing to do the work, the inner self work, can benefit from that, and I love the fact that it's much more mainstream and accepted now. And so, if we'd have said this on film 20 years ago, they'd have probably thought you and I were crazy.
Yeah, you'd feel ashamed.
Sure, yeah, and now it's more acceptable.
Yeah. I kind of want to backtrack a bit, because I think you touched on something really important, but telling your younger self to not identify with external successes that aren't always going to go your way, and rather grounding in something more long-lasting and fulfilling, more eternal. Would you speak to that a bit more, just in the sense of that's a very real life
Yeah.
conflict people have, especially when you're young and
Yeah.
you're the world is telling you to chase these things and this is what will bring you success and happiness, but
Sure.
God is telling you.
Yeah. The thing is, Cyrus, is the research is clear. The research is clear that chasing, the brass ring or chasing money or titles or whatever it might be, the research is clear that those things are not associated with happiness. They're not. In fact, most of these happy tests that are taken, and you can kind of see this, whole countries take these tests. A lot of times the places that are most happy are the places that are not necessarily the wealthiest countries.
Yeah.
And so I think that's interesting. I think there's something to learn there. And so I read the other day that when people are on their deathbed, when people are faced with their final few breaths in life, that really only a few things matter. Who you loved and who loved you. Now, I would add a third thing because I'm a person of faith, and that would be what's my relationship like with my Lord and Savior. But what's my relationship like with my Lord and Savior? Who did I love and who loved me? So when I'm on my deathbed, my guess is when it comes time to think about you, I'm going to think about the fact that we formed a relationship. I actually loved you, Cyrus. You actually loved me. And that probably is going to mean a lot more to me than thinking about one of the games that we won and the fact that you and I were happy after we won that game. Again, nothing's wrong with that.
Yeah.
You play to win.
Yeah.
But I think when we're forced to think about our own demise, we quickly think about relationships, we quickly think about love. And so back to your question, talk more about that, your identity. I just thought early on, if I'm going to have my identity in things that ultimately I'm convinced that don't matter in the end, wealth, fame, fill in the blank, then why do I want to put all my investment into those things while I'm living? And again, I get off track. We get off track. We do those things. Obviously, I need to make money.
Yeah.
It's so I have to feed my family. I've got to pay the mortgage, right? I mean, you're not going to pay that for me. So I've got to, there's nothing wrong with making money. Yeah. Nothing wrong with wanting to work hard. Nothing wrong with wanting to do well, right? Nothing wrong with that. I mean, the times that we've won awards for you won an award this past year. I've won an award, and the times that you win awards, you feel good about your work, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But you used the word earlier, and I'll circle back to it. There's got to be a healthy detachment from that.
Yeah.
And I hope that you've seen that in me, and I think I've seen it in you. That's like you're grateful, you're honored, but hopefully when you came to that, that Hall of Fame thing, I hope that you saw that I was grateful and that I was touched, but there was a healthy detachment from it. This is not where I find ultimate life. You know what I mean? Because it's not. It's not. Yeah. Where I find ultimate life is what I referenced earlier. Who loves me and who do I love? And again, I add a third thing because I'm a person of faith.
Yeah. That's really powerful. Yeah.
Thank you.
So the next question I want to ask is, when life feels overwhelming, what helps you stay grounded and keep moving forward?
Yeah, I struggled with that very much for most of my life. Because again, I'm a planner. I want things to go exactly as I thought they should go. And I'm also, if you're into personality testing, I'm also a 3 on the Enneagram. So what that means is I'm very driven. I want to achieve, and I have a hard time feeling good about myself if I'm not achieving, right? So I've learned that the hard way, and some of those answers I've already given you. But your question is what are some of the tools or things I do when things are not going my way?
Yeah.
I've become a big fan of daily breathing and meditation. I try to start my day that way. I try to start my day breathing, I've got a few different guided meditations that I really like.
Yeah.
There was a while when I was working on my doctorate that I had a professor that sort of challenged me to do this for 90 days, and I started every day for 90 days with the This Is Water speech by David Foster Wallace, which I think I've shared with you and the team before. And that would sort of set my intention for the day. And I think those things have really helped. It's harder to be reactionary or to be ugly to the person in front of you if you just came off 15 minutes of breathing and meditation. It just is. And so a lot of times when I would go into a meeting with somebody here at Rochester that maybe I didn't care for as much, or somebody that was a bully, or somebody that I knew was saying things about me that weren't true, I would do my best to breathe before those meetings, so I could sort of get through them without being too reactionary.
Yeah.
And then relying on a few trusted friends. I've got 2 or 3 people in my life that I can talk to about anything, anytime, day or night. They'll always take my call. They'll always connect with me, and they know me really well, and they know that they can talk to me straight. And so, again, breathing and meditation, and then having a support group, in my case, 2 or 3 friends that I can talk to at any time about anything, and I can be vulnerable. They will be honest with me, not tell me what I want to hear. And maybe what they tell me is what I wanted to hear because it was the truth to them in that moment. But they're not afraid to say something hard.
Yeah.
Those are the things that have gotten me through.
Yeah, it's definitely important having people in your circle who can hold you accountable and also be supportive and just be there when
Absolutely.
you need it. Because we're social creatures.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me about going through some of those things I referenced earlier with my wife, and there are some people in my life that felt like there were different miracles that God performed for her to live. But when I think about that, I think the miracle is the fact that people brought us food because we were hungry. People showed up and mowed our lawn because our lawn needed to be mowed, and that's the last thing I was thinking about, right? So those are the miracles to me. The miracles to me are, a player writing a note, and that note, just kind of making your day, and I just want to say those are the little miracles too.
Yeah, that's lovely. I want to backtrack a bit, but you talked about mindfulness and meditation and breathing, and it's something I've personally worked with. But it's funny because now I'm remembering moments throughout the season when, like, it's late game scenario and the guys are really panting, and you just tell them breathe, breathe, be in this moment, and then before a game, like, be present, go have fun.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that mindfulness and meditation was something you were working with, but it makes sense.
Yeah, several years ago, I had a friend that invited me to a group. It was a small group. There were only 5 of us. And it was the first time I was introduced to this. And all we did is we met every Tuesday afternoon after work at a place downtown. And there were, like I said, there were 5 of us. And we would go through a 90-minute breathing and meditation exercise together. And then when we were done, we would all just share how that went for us. And I kind of went to the group not really super excited, kind of kicking and screaming, and then it ended up becoming like, Tuesday at 4:00 can't get here soon enough.
Yeah.
It just became almost like a medicinal thing for me. And so I've been a fan of that ever since.
Yeah. Could you speak more about the present moment, just and what that entails? Because I feel like that encompasses so much of life.
Yeah.
Especially with my generation who has increasingly more distractions, having our cell phones. It's I think people are finding it harder and harder to be present. But what does that look like, the present moment?
Right. That's a really good question, and I think it's a hard question, and it's one probably different people would answer in different ways. But I think the first thing that strikes me is it's the only moment that we have. So if we are not willing to be present in the only moment we have, which right now is this moment with you and me. And if I can choose to be distracted, or I can choose to be present with you in this moment. But regardless of what choice I make, I can't do anything about the past, and I can't do anything about the future. That kind of comes back to identity, right? All I can do is live as best I can in this moment. And it strikes me that if we go through life understanding that, then there's a chance that our life is going to be better lived. Because if we don't do that, we just rob ourselves of every moment.
Yeah.
And so some people say it's kind of in vogue right now to say, oh, I want to be where my feet are. Well, no, that's just another way of saying I want to be present. So here are some tips, some practical tips. When you came in here, I silenced my phone because we made this appointment, and this is an opportunity for us to connect. And I want to be completely, fully present with you because this moment matters. Instead of checking, and you know what it feels like when someone is not, so number one is I want to give you my undivided attention. I'll go one step further. You've probably heard me say this before on a basketball retreat or at practice. I can tell you I love you. You may or may not believe me, because that's just a word. Cyrus, I love you. Okay, I love you too, coach. But what if I look at you and say, what if you come to me and you need to talk to me, and I give you my complete undivided attention? I turn my phone off. I don't break eye contact. I don't interrupt you. And I just listen. That's how I feel loved. Like, you can tell me you love me, and I may or may not believe it, but if you actually hold space with me in the present moment, that's how I feel loved. So you can tell me you love me, but if you want me to actually feel that love from you, give me your undivided attention. So again, your question was, what are some tips and tools to do this? You said talk more about this.
Yeah.
And so I think being serious about mindfulness, being serious about meditation, being serious about the present moment. And what are some ways we can do that? Well, we can eliminate the distractions, and we can listen to someone to understand them instead of listening to respond. Like, I had a coworker here forever at Rochester, and he wouldn't listen to a thing you said. You could be talking to him and you knew that he didn't care anything you said, and he was just getting ready to beat you up with his return words. And instead of just going, I just want to listen to understand. Instead of listening to respond or listening to win the conversation. What is that? And I think so often people miss each other because they actually don't know how to listen. And I think listening is unfortunately a real skill. And sometimes what I'll do is students will walk in and I won't have a lot of time. And so what I'll do is I'll say this: I have 5 minutes. I know what 5 minutes feels like. So I don't have to keep looking at my phone. I don't have to keep looking at my watch. I'm going to set my phone aside and I'm going to say, Cyrus, I got 5 minutes, and every one of them are yours. But now I'm setting the expectation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have 5 minutes. So there's nothing wrong with creating boundaries either, right? I've got boundaries. Like my kid's waiting on me.
Yeah.
I got 5 minutes. They're all yours. No phone. I'm not going to check my watch. I know what 5 minutes feels like. Go.
I think that's so powerful, the listening aspect, because so much of the world would be better and healed if people could just listen.
Yeah.
Because you notice so much more if you're in that present moment, and it's just as a natural byproduct of being in the present moment, compassion and empathy and understanding follows. Because, like you said, it's a lot of conversations are transactional. They're not just listening. To be undivided attention, and intention is one of the biggest things we can't control.
And the sad thing is, Cyrus, is all this stuff has a cost to it if you don't do it well. Like, there's this guy named Patrick Lencioni, and Lencioni says that the number one thing you have to have on the foundation, if you think of like a workplace or a friendship or a relationship or a team, if it's built on a pyramid, the foundation of that pyramid, Lencioni says, is trust. And if you don't have the foundation of trust, nothing else matters. Your organization is going to fail. Your team is going to fail. the relationship is not going to work. And you know that's true, I mean, because you know how important trust is. We would, you know, if we didn't find a way to trust each other, even though you didn't always get your way
Yeah.
when we were together on the team, but at the end of the day, you trusted me.
Yeah.
You trusted me, and I trusted you. So because we trust each other, now we have the ability to add to it. To add to it. And so one of the phrases I use is, if we can actually establish trust, now all of the things become possible. If you don't have trust, you're just constantly kicking upstream. And I see it with organizations all the time. You know, probably even RCU. You know, you don't trust really isn't established, and so it's like you take a step forward and two steps back.
Yeah.
You know, and what's my point? My point is that oftentimes one of the ways to establish trust is to be able to spend time and listen to one another. That's why we always would start the basketball season with a retreat, because we would want to give everyone an opportunity to tell their story and for all of us to listen. And I've often thought, like when we do chapel, or even like when the senior leadership team meets, I always thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if we started those meetings or had chapel with just letting people tell their stories while people listen? Because if you start to know people's stories and you become vulnerable with one another, now the team really starts to get momentum.
Yeah.
And until you have that, everybody stays guarded.
Yeah.
You know?
Keyword vulnerability.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's huge. That's how you build trust.
Yeah, for sure.
So to wrap it up, the final question I wanted to ask, just to leave students with some advice, is, I know we've talked about the present moment, but what would you tell students who are struggling to find purpose and direction beyond school?
I'd say a couple things. I think everybody needs to kind of go through their own self-exploration of their why. And there's a book called Questions Beyond Questions. That's the name of the book. QBQ, Questions Beyond Questions. And what that means is, like, there's a question, but really there's a question behind that. There's probably a question behind that. There's probably, you get me, right? And so you just kind of keep asking why. Well, why'd you come to Rochester? Well, why are you here? Well, why is that your major? Why? And then you eventually kind of get to, this is what I'm passionate about. This is what is really the core of my being. And then you start to work from that place. So that's number one. And then another thing that comes to mind is, there's really nothing wrong with asking for help. I think a lot of students would benefit from therapy.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, you're older than me, you're wiser than me, you've been down this road. Can you mentor me? Can you sit with me with this? You know what I mean? And I think when students get stuck with that purpose, sometimes I want to tell students, you have resources.
Yeah.
You're just not using them. You've got resources. How many times have I said my door's open? How many times, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so really self-examine, what is your why? Tap into your resources. And I'm suggesting that could be counseling, therapy, finding a mentor. And then, and stick with it. Stick with it. You don't have to have the complete set of answers to the complete set of questions when you're 20 or 21 or 22. And so just find a way to give yourself a little more grace. Again, I'm 51 and I feel like I'm still really trying to figure some things out. I've gone through, this past 6, 7, 8 months has been really interesting and really challenging, but I'm learning new things. And so I would say, when you come upon those situations where you're struggling, can you step back, like we talked about earlier in the show? Can you step back and say, okay, what am I learning?
Yeah.
So again, really self-examine and try to find what your why is, what makes you tick, what's your gift. One of my first bosses would say to me, he would say, Coach, your job is to discover what your unique gift is and then give it away to the world. Discover what your unique gift is, and once you discover it, give it away to the world. Well, so we got to go through that process. What's my gift in this? And sometimes I think, my gift in this was never coaching. So I like to think, was connecting with people. I like to think the two of us are going to be in a relationship for the rest of our lives. And that's what I get excited about. I mean, basketball's fun and all, but this is more fun because this is lasting. Again, don't forget the research says on your deathbed, it's who did you love and who loved you. So what's your why? Tap into your resources, and then keep your eyes open to what you can learn during difficult times. Those are the three things that come to mind.
That's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there anything you would like to leave the viewers with? Any lasting message or?
We've already probably talked more than you needed me to talk, but you asked great questions, and just wrap it up by saying thanking you for what you've meant to the university, for your leadership. I've watched you make your own transformation process and go through your own transformation journey, and that makes us as employees here so proud. And my hope is that the relationship just continues to strengthen, and we always keep in touch, and I appreciate everything you've done for RCU.
Yeah, definitely. And I also want to thank you for everything you've done for the RCU, and just also in my personal life, just being a part of this program, and the experiences and the lessons I'll carry with me forever. And like you said, the connections.
Yeah.
And I definitely gotta get you to come over to Australia somewhere down the line.
Well, I'm trying to step foot on every continent.
Yeah.
I've already stepped foot in every state, and I've got 3 continents left, and Australia is one of them.
Yeah.
And that's including Antarctica.
Okay.
But there's a path to get there too. But the next one is definitely Australia. So I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah. I'll do some groundwork there. But
surely you're going to need a speaker over there, or someone to do a coaching clinic or something.
Yeah. You'll be the first one on there. So.
Great. Awesome.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, brother.
Appreciate you.
That was fun.
Yeah.